out of every 100 students in Pennsylvania, there are 10 suspensions. So that doesn't necessarily mean 10% of students, because some students are suspended multiple times, but that's still an alarming rate of students who are being kept away from school. There's also a very high rate of expulsion and a high rate of arrest. And not only that, but there's a clear disproportionate impact on African American students, on Latino students, and on students with disabilities.
Zero tolerance is a policy that has specific punishments for a specific misbehavior without considering the context or the individual situation. The original intention of zero tolerance policies was to prescribe harsh punishment for serious offenses. But what we've seen over time is that these responses are not limited to the most serious offenses. Instead, minor offenses like talking back to a teacher or violating the dress code have resulted in students being removed from school, even when not required by law.
In my high school, there were a lot of fights. And I know that for some people, fighting is not a minor infraction, but I think that there could have been a lot of steps taken to, one, prevent the fights, and then work through any solutions with the students, because sometimes the fights would happen with students more than once. These would be the same students fighting repeatedly. And so clearly there needs to be a relationship mend. There has to be something to find out the root cause of what's causing these fights, and then figure out how to fix it.
And what happens is, the same kinds of behaviors that kids do in one setting can be perceived differently, in another setting. And I think, so why is that? I think we really have to take the time to understand some of those beliefs that we have about each other and challenge those, and really come to, we need a safe place to have really frank conversations about how we perceive each other, and how we can work together to support our kids.
I think we really need to change the way we look at discipline within our schools. 60 years ago, corporal punishment was okay, right? And we've moved away from that, realizing that that's not an effective form of discipline. And I think we need to realize the same thing with zero tolerance. It's not an effective form of discipline. There's, there's no research that supports these kinds of very punitive disciplinary policies on, improving students' behavior, improving the school climate. Whereas there is research supporting the idea that positive interventions can help individual students and can make a much better school climate for all the students.